Okay, I would like to call the March 31st Board of Selectmen's meeting to order right at 6:30. And I will read the beginning introduction to this meeting. This is a virtual and in-person session at the Great Hall, Wolfeboro Town Hall. Good evening and welcome to the March 31st, 2021 meeting of the Wolfeboro Board of Selectmen. Due to the COVID-19 coronavirus crisis and in accordance with the Governor's New News Emergency Order Number 12, pursuant to Executive Order Number 2020-04, this board is authorized to meet electronically. However, the committee has jointly decided to proceed with a hybrid meeting format, allowing the members of the public and the board to attend and participate in the meeting in person or virtually. Votes taken during this meeting will be via roll call vote for all members in accordance with Emergency Order Number 12. For members of the public, this is to confirm that we are present. Providing public access to the meeting by telephone with additional access possible via video or other electronic means through GoToMeeting. All members of the public and the board have the ability to communicate contemporaneously during this meeting through the GoToMeeting format, and the public has access to the contemporaneously listen and, if necessary, participate in this meeting through dialing the following phone number: 1-646-749-3122, followed by the radio audio access code 447-550-261, or by video following the directions on the town website posted on the home page under Virtual Town Meeting Login Information page. Providing public notice of the necessary information for accessing the meeting, we previously gave notice to the public on how to access the meeting in person or by using GoToMeeting, and instructions are provided on the town website at wolfeboronh.us on the Virtual Town Meeting Login Information page. Providing the mechanisms for the public to alert the public body during the meeting if there are problems with access. If anybody has a problem accessing this meeting via phone or computer, please immediately call, and I'm going to give you my cell phone number, 603-387-8259. In the event the public is unable to access the meeting, we will adjourn the meeting and have it rescheduled at that time. At this time, I'd like to take a roll call vote. Brad Harriman.
Present.
Luke Freudenberg.
Present.
Brian Deshay.
Present.
Dave Senecal.
Present.
And myself, I'm here. First item on the agenda, Mr. Pinio, do we have a need for a non-public session?
Good evening, Madam Chairman. Yes, we do have a need for non-public under RSA 91A, 3 Roman numeral 2 lowercase e, pending litigation.
Okay, we'll move on to new business, and I'd like a motion to go into a Libby Trustees meeting work session.
So move.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Do I have any discussion? Hearing none, I'll take a roll call vote. Brad Harriman?
Yes.
Dave Senecal?
Yes.
Luke Freudenberg?
Yes.
Brian Deshay?
Yes.
And Linda Murray says yes. Okay, we're now in a Libby Trustees meeting, and this is how I'd like to handle this meeting. First of all, I'll let Jim Pinio go through the documents and the timelines that he has put together for us, and let the board ask any questions that we may have. Then I'd like somebody from the Friends of the Libby to give their presentation and also allow the board to ask any questions. After we get done, any other questions we may have, we should ask until everybody is done with their questions and have an understanding of what we have talked about here. So with that, I will turn it over to the town manager for his presentation.
Thank you, Madam Chairperson. First of all, you received a package this evening. There's a significant amount of paper in there. For three of you, this is fairly familiar information. However, it should provide some catch-up for our two new board members. The documents contained is the last will and testament of Dr. Libby, petition for the Board of Selectmen to become trustees of the Libby Museum, notes that were put together by a resident of the community. You will also find in here a Bergeron building inspection and life safety report, a moisture management report, a draft set of conditions and a preliminary budget created by Alba Architects, a series of laser measurements dating from 2013, 14, and 19, an HEB structural assessment report, which was part of the 2019 work, preservation timber, a scope of work relative to some work that was done to the floor, Alba's final summary and final budget for 2019, and then final technical drawings. Then in the year of 2020, the trustees requested a reduced scope of work to see what a different model of the Libby Museum might look like and cost, and that's in there as well. So I'm going to put this brief PowerPoint up on the screen. It's a timeline of some pretty important events which is taking place regarding the Libby Museum, and I'm sure that when done, you'll have some questions, and I will certainly try to answer. So, in 1956, the Board of Selectmen petitioned the court to become trustees of the Libby Museum. That became reality. Really fast forward to, thank you, Luke, to 2010. The town, oops, I went the wrong direction. The town raised some funds to conduct some building evaluations townwide. The Libby Museum was one of those buildings that had some work done, and that's the 2010 Bergeron report, which is in your packet. We move forward to 2013. First round of laser measurements were taken, and then 2014, more laser measurements were taken. Move into 2015, the town raised $200,000 through a bond for the Libby repair to repair building ceiling, moisture, and other issues, as is read in the town report from that year. That bond actually matures in 2025. As a result of that, one of the items that came forward was the moisture report, which recommended fans be installed, and that was done. In 2018, the voters raised $25,000 for the purpose of conducting a feasibility study on the options to accommodate the current Libby Museum collection and additions to it by improving and expanding the existing historic museum building. There was an additional $50,000 that came forward from a private foundation. December of 2018, the contract with the architect performing that feasibility study was terminated. And then when we got into town meeting of March of 2019, the voters authorized another $40,000 for the purpose of continuing the feasibility study to come up with options to best accommodate the museum collection and expanding the building. Those funds actually came from a bequest to the town, to the Libby specifically, through the Betty Drain Stroth gift. During this time frame, a request for proposal was put out, and in May of 2019, Alba Architects was chosen to perform the current feasibility study, which you have in front of you now. Pretty quickly through that, HEB, a subcontractor for Alba, identified significant deficiencies in the floor system. Preservation Timber was contacted. They came in, they looked at it, they made recommendations, and they performed work to stabilize the floor system to keep the building safe. At that time, we also did round 3 of laser measurements, the same contractor that we'd used previously, and it indicated that the building was continuing to move. November of 2019, Alba Architects delivered their preliminary estimate for repairs and expansion of $2.4 million. And then in December of 2019, they delivered the final price with estimate for repairs and expansion of $2.9 million. January 2021, the decision was made to remove the bond from the warrant in favor of creating a capital reserve fund in the amount of $300,000 for renovating and expanding the Libby Museum. And then in the spring of 2020, the trustees met to discuss options going forward with the Libby Museum. The discussion really revolved around 4 different options, and it came back that the trustees wanted us to re-engage Alba Architects to come back with 2 options: to rehabilitate the Libby Museum with a minor addition for the purposes of HVAC systems, environmental controls, and other mechanical and electrical systems, and to rehabilitate the Libby Museum with L-chip funding. That work was done, and that's how we're sitting at the price tags that we're currently at today. And those are based on 2019 numbers. So a couple of things have really occurred in the past few months. In September of 2020, the trustees met, and they took 2 votes at that meeting. The first vote was to recommend putting $100,000 into the Libby CIP for 2021 through 2030. The roll call vote taken, and that passed by a margin of 4 to 1. As that vote closed, the further discussion happened regarding the $2.3 million or the $2.9 million expansion, and which plan should be the plan of record going forward. The Board of Selectmen discussed it, and the motion was made and seconded and passed by a margin of 3 to 2 to go forward with the $2.3 million expansion. In December of 2020, the Friends of the Libby Museum proposed a memorandum of understanding. As that came forward, we brought it to Attorney Puffer for review. He had some significant concerns, and we worked with the trustee or the Friends of the Libby to reword that document. In February of 2021, the trustees and the Friends of the Libby took the recommendations from Attorney Puffer and got the memorandum to understanding to really a close model of what works for both groups of stakeholders. So as of today, what the Friends of the Libby would really like the Board of Selectmen to consider is looking at the vote taken for the smaller project and consider moving forward with a $2.9 million project. So some things to consider over the next week here is the motion which was made for the $2.3 million. The Friends of the Libby Museum would like the Board of Selectmen to rescind this vote and create a new motion which would endorse the $2.9 million project as proposed in 2019, and then sign the memorandum of understanding, which would allow them to raise significantly more funds. The memorandum of understanding is in your packet. The memorandum of understanding puts 70% of the burden of the project on the Friends of the Libby and 30% on the town. With that said, that's a brief walk through the timeline of how we got to where we're at today, and I will certainly try to answer any questions that the board members may have.
Does any board member have any question that they'd like to make at this time? I can address why I voted for the $2.3 million, since I'm the only one left on the board who voted for that. In 2019, going into 2019, there was no support by the Budget Committee for the $2.9 million warrant article. That was the reason why the board withdrew that. And when we looked at it, we thought as if we brought the cost down, that there was a chance that we could get the Budget Committee maybe to support a 2.3, looking at the 2. The way I feel right now is if the Friends of the Libby Museum are willing to raise 75% of the cost of a 2.9, I'm more than willing to go to 2.9. I think that's a legitimate ask to the voters of the town. It leaves the voters, and I'm going to use the 2019 figures because I can't use anything else, but we know it'll be 7-30. That would cost the taxpayers about $900,000. We have $300,000 already in the capital reserve, starting to get down to a reasonable amount. If we put some more in another year, it could be something we might not have to bond. We probably would. But it just seems like that's a wonderful gift to the town if they're willing to raise $2 million towards this project, and I would definitely support that. I support the Libby. I've supported it all along. I support Wolfeboro becoming a museum town. We always have to balance out what the taxpayer can afford and what the needs are, and we all know we have to work on that all the time. So that's kind of where I am. I also want to note that the timeline in terms of when different warrant articles passed was done by Mike Hodder. He gave that to the Board of Selectmen, and I want everybody to know that he did a lot of work in putting that together for us. Does anybody else have any comments or questions at this time?
I think that I would like to have a little time to digest all of this. I don't know if Luke needs to, but I haven't seen the memorandum of understanding. I met today with the Friends of the Libby, and I don't know exactly what's in the document, and I would like to see them meet some benchmarks for fundraising in order for us to go forward with the project at a nice, concentrated but gentle pace. They have a lot of money to raise. They think they can, but let's make sure that we don't commit to something where then they're not able to meet the goals that we need.
Right, in no way would we ask you to vote on anything tonight.
I understand.
This is just a work session,
Yeah.
you know, and I know you didn't get the material and stuff, yeah. And that you're the one who's in the hardest position here. Yeah. But it is, if there is any questions that you have, this is the time, and same thing, yeah, with you, Luke. Yeah,
yeah.
You know?
I spent an hour today, and I asked a lot of questions, and I got a lot of good information. Mm-hmm. And I'm happy with the project, but I think that we have to make sure that going forward, it's self-sustaining, that it's not a drain on the town. and that there are certain obligations by both sides that are met in order for it to be an equitable agreement.
Anybody? Luke, you want-
How do we like when we did the Friends of the Town Hall and we had the benchmarks along the way, was that spelled out, like, or is it just?
No, it wasn't spelled out. When it came, they went on a campaign, and when we were putting the warrant article forward, they told us how much money they had. There was no pre-agreement with them. The library, on the other hand, did a 3-year capital campaign as we put together the drawings and stuff. They had some of their own money, similar to there is some money that the Friends have that helped with some of the designs. And they committed, when we wrote the warrant article again, they committed to 1.3 million. They had 1.3 million. They would come in when they had things to tell us. I have X amount of money, we're looking at this, we're doing that. We didn't say, I need you here this date and that date and that date and that date. They came to us and said, this is what we have, this is what we're willing to put through. And what I'm amazed, not only with the Friends of the Town Hall, but the Friends of the library, they got every bit of penny. Each of them gave more than what they initially said. Abenaki, the town put $281,000 in a capital reserve, and they weighed $365,000. Two came together, and we got the Abenaki ski lodge. So I saw that kind of a relationship, that they're going to go out and they're going to raise their money. And they'll come in and they'll communicate what their needs are with us. I'm sure they'll come in if they get a big donation and let us know, and that puts it out into the public. So that's how I feel. Brad, do you have anything to add here?
Yeah, sure. As you know, I was one of the ones back in 2020 that was in favor of the larger, the $2.9 million project. In reading through this new MOU that we have in front of us here, to kind of a couple of Brian's concerns there, doesn't really talk about that that there's a deadline here for this to all happen, whether it takes 1 or 2 years or 3 years or more to do the fundraising for it. And as you mentioned too, Linda, the town hall wasn't set into goals, milestones to reach along the way and stuff there. So I think this MOU, the way it's kind of written here, I'm assuming this one's also been through town council for his review too and stuff. So this doesn't lock us into a certain time frame either right now. We're kind of an open-ended one. Is just basically an agreement saying that we agree with the project in whole for the Friends of Libby to go ahead and start their major fundraising campaign, which I think is very important on their end of it to get out there and start knocking on doors and making phone calls and getting these donors lined up to get this project moving forward. So I'd say I'm obviously in favor of this and moving it forward and stuff. And I do understand we got 2 new members here that really want to get caught up, just get up to speed on it and stuff, and they need a little time to digest all of this, which is perfectly understandable. So it's kind of where I'm at with this whole thing.
Dave?
I was one of the ones, as Brad was, that voted against the original concept. And my reasoning for that was we weren't that far apart between 2.3 and 2.9, and there was quite a difference in the scale of the project and what was going to be done between those 2 numbers. So my feeling was that if we were going to do it, and we had people there, and we had a contractor, that I felt the whole thing should be done. I still believe that way. I think that the Friends of the Libby and the MOU that we have, and again, Luke and Brian haven't looked through it or had the time, I think it's pretty good. But that being said, they're going to base their fundraising on the 2.9 figure and not the 2.3. So that's a complete project. And that's where I'm headed as far as I'm concerned. I want this project done once and done. I don't think that we need to rebuild the main part of the building and put a small addition on. I think we ought to do it the way it was originally set up. And if we can get them to do 90%, that gives us about, what, 900,000 or something we have to kick in at some point. And if we keep putting money in each year through the CIP program and so forth, that, you know, we should be able to get the whole project completed. That's my feeling.
I do want for the people who are listening, and when we talk about the MOU is contingent upon the voters approving the warrant article. We're willing to put out the warrant article, but it's the voters who are the only ones who can appropriate the funds. We're just really saying to them, you raise that $2 million, we're willing to put this warrant article out to fund this project. But we cannot, you know, commit to it because it's the voters who commit. And the board is fully aware that it will be just that we'd be willing to put the warrant article out, not that we are committing the funds. Is there anything else that you would like any kind of clarity or more discussion on? Why don't I let the Friends of the Libby come forward with theirs, and that may trigger some other questions. I think it would be best if they go to this, or can they do it from over there?
They should be able to do it from there. I believe that camera will cue in on them.
Well, before can I ask for one small correction to Mr. Pridio's slides? On the last slide, you referenced a vote on September of 2021, and it should have been 2020.
Yep.
On the very top of that.
Corrected. Thank you.
Well, we greatly appreciate.
Can you each say your name? Because there are people, and I just realized that as you started to talk, that there are people who...
I am Tom Goodwin, and I am currently the president of the board for the Friends of the Libby Museum.
And my name is John Wilkins. I'm the director of the Friends of the Libby Museum.
Good evening. I'm Alana Aldi. I'm the previous director of the museum until early 2019. No, 2020, sorry. And I'm an ambassador to the Friends of the Libby, helping them with the fundraising.
Could I have you guys just pull your mics a little bit closer to you so we could hear a little bit better?
A little better?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks.
As I started to say, thank you, Madam Chairman, for having us tonight to the Libby Trustees meeting. Jim, thank you for your excellent walkthrough of where we've been. I think that's, we all know where we are. What we've been trying to do in the last number of months is pull together a memo of understanding. And about a month ago, through circumstance, your board put together refinements to the memo, and we did one. And I think the one in your package is the one that Jim presented at the meeting on March the 1st, or March the 3rd, if I'm correct. And I've taken his exact wording and made one little modification in it for your consideration. Our challenge in the fundraising, and to back up for a minute, you know, we're prepared to raise 70% of the cost. And I don't think there's been a number that high in any public-private partnership in the town that I'm aware of. I believe we can do that, but to do that, we need to have some major donors convinced. We have to convince them that the town is, in fact, our partner in doing this. So we will basically be using a form not unlike what the Library Foundation used 4 years ago, having some contingent pledges premised upon a town warrant being presented and voted upon by the voters who have the ultimate say from the town's point of view. you know, in a sense, we're codependents here. We're trying to raise money privately, and you have the duty to go to the taxpayers and put the project in front of them and get their honest reaction. So we have to each work with our constituency and work with each other's constituencies to identify why this is really a good project. We believe it is because it will preserve the vision of Dr. Libby, restore the collection, have some modest additional exhibit room, and bring the facility up to date for a very long period of time. And this is the only natural history museum in the state. We'd also, as part of our program, we talked with Brian about this afternoon, like to bring an ecology program into the museum. The museum abuts right onto the lake, and we're all aware of the changes in the lake water, the phosphorus, the stuff that the scientists like Dr. Warren Muir have been helping us with, and we need to continue those studies, and we'd like to make that part of the educational process for the younger people who will be coming to the museum to learn about it. We'd like to be able to change the exhibits a little bit, and to do that we do a little storage room, which is what one of the reasons for a little modest additional expansion space. There's a couple of exhibits that sort of come and go now, have to leave because there's no room for them in the wintertime. We're prepared to, we're going to do our best to raise an additional $1 million endowment to help cover operating expenses. And we had a gift of $25,000 come in at year end, so we got to start on that permanent endowment. If we can get that to $1 million over 5 years, then grow it beyond that, that will be incremental revenues to support and enhance the Libby activities and new programs that can be done. So I guess we'd like to work with the Libby Trustees Board on this evening is getting an MOU in place. And this is probably not the moment to draft it, but I'd be happy to pass out a revised, taking Jim's memo and just making one sentence change for your consideration, which would give our donors some reason to believe that the town really will be in partnership with us on this. We'd also like to propose quarterly meetings where we come to this board on a quarterly basis, report on our progress. We'd like to set some benchmarks, for example, for you folks to put out a warrant a year from now. We'd like to be able to show that we've made substantial progress in our $2 million. We have $140K in the kitty as we speak, so if I do the math, we need to raise about another $950 between now and, say, next December to give your board good faith that we're doing our share, and then have the second phase completed within the second year for you to do the second warrant article. So that would be 2 warrant articles. That might be a little faster than initially considered, but it's our view that the sooner the better, because the building, the costs are only going to inflate. We realize we'll have some additional costs to deal with there, but I think the sooner the better. So bottom line, that's sort of where we are. Brian had some excellent ideas today. We chatted with him. There are various issues out there. We know boat trailers use it. In the initial, I think, Alba 2019 plan, there was a parking lot scheme which showed, I think, 20 parking spaces and some additional spaces for boat trailers. There actually is room beyond the stone wall there where there would be some space for boats. That was in the original plan in 2019, and that makes good sense. And obviously, the lakes are wonderful recreation area. We don't want to take that away from anyone for sure. So in a nutshell, that's where we are. And if the board would consider, I'd be happy to pass out a revised, taking Jim's precise wording and just changing one sentence for your consideration. And again, that's probably something you'd want to think about and talk about and maybe fine tune a little bit so we can both sign a member of understanding. It's very clear that this is a non-binding matter. Attorney Puffer made that very clear, and that's clearly stated in the preamble to the memo of understanding. But it gives us the ability to go to our constituents in good faith and say, look, we're a team, we're doing this together. Neither of us can do it alone, but together I truly believe we can. And ultimately, if we're successful, and I believe we can be, then we, the Friends, would like to participate in the governance of the museum over time, and that would be at a future date in an appropriate manner. I mean, there's no immediate plan for that, but I think the Friends want to be more actively involved in the governance of the museum, which is now exclusively the Libby Trustees. We're also the Selectmen. So, Tom, am I into that?
keep my references brief here. The reason for the memo of understanding is that we need to be able to talk to our potential donors and show that the town, the Libby trustees, and the Friends of the Libby are all in agreement on moving forward with the full expansion, the $2.9 million project. One of the big hurdles right now is the vote on record in favor of the $2.3 million project. And what part of this memo of understanding is to kind of revisit that vote and to show that there is support among the Libby trustees and the Board of Selectmen for the $2.9 million project. And that will go a long way in helping our potential donors understand that we are all on the same page and we're all working towards the same goal. Alana, do you want to add anything?
Thank you very much, and lovely to see you all again. I'd just like to add one aspect that has been raised. It was raised by Brian today out at the visit at the museum that I think is very important for the voters to understand as well. And that's that unlike the town hall and unlike the library, the Libby serves a much wider constituency beyond the town boundaries, in the sense that it is the only natural history museum in the state of New Hampshire, and it's enjoyed enormously by our neighboring towns of Tufton Borough, Moulton Borough, etc. And that our intention as fundraisers is to leverage that. I mean, I know that the 2 million goal is big. It's a big challenge for us. But we have people that are very interested in the museum that feel they would like to help with the restoration that are beyond the town boundaries. And that's an advantage that we have that perhaps other projects, which have their own town libraries, etc., it's different from that. So I do believe it's achievable. I mean, I will eat my words humbly if we don't get there. But we have had a lot of interest, and I'm really looking forward to doing this in partnership with the town.
Thank you. I'm just looking at the changes on this MOU, and I think this needs to go back to the group that was working on it, to put $300,000 in 2022 and 2023. That's a cash event. That's a big impact. And we've talked before, we have a big, huge building coming up that we need to address, and that's the public safety building. And when we get all the needs of all the different departments come into the CIP, we have to start weighing where we are with projects. And I could not support at this particular time $300,000 in cash in 2023. That's what, I don't know about 2022, but definitely not 23 when the public safety building's coming, because that is the next one on our CIP list of big projects. They waited for the town hall to get done, they waited for the library to get done, and that's the next big project. We also have in 2022, I'm expecting a repair to the Pop Whalen Arena that needs to come through that we didn't get through this year. So I'm willing to look at putting some money in a capital reserve account, but I'm not willing to put $300,000 and commit in an MOU, and that's just where I am right now. It wasn't what we had talked about as we worked as a group. That's my first reaction to that. But I do want the public to know, and for you to know, and I've said it to John and to Tom before, we're going to have to balance. We've got a big nut coming down the line here, so we're going to have to figure out exactly. I think, when you've raised the 70,000, then we can, or getting, 2 million, we can start, coming down and looking at things a little more closely. But in terms of 2023, you're going to get a no vote for me because I really believe that the public safety building comes first. I don't know where anybody else is on that.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah.
Because the public safety building is, and has been right in the pipeline for many years. Not that this isn't important, don't get me wrong, but I think that this is new too tonight, this sheet that you gave us, and we certainly need to look at that as well.
Any other comments anybody wants to make to the Friends of the Libby? Any other hot information on this do you want to look at or talk about? I know it's a lot for Luke and Brian to get tonight.
Well, we'll have an opportunity in the future to,
Well,
soon.
okay, then where
Soon, very soon.
Yes, where I'm heading on this, and the reason why I called this meeting was that I was thinking that on the April 7th meeting that we would probably need to vote on the rescinding if they're going to go in this direction, and I didn't want to ask you two to make a vote on that without having every opportunity to ask any kind of question you can. I am sure, and I'm going to go out on the limb, that either John or Tom or Alana, if you have questions, would be more than willing to answer any of their questions before that vote. I think that maybe at this point is the best way to do that. Jim or I or any one of us on the board can also, talk to you about any of the issues that we have had in just trying to decide one way or another. I don't know about whether we'll have the MOU worked out for that same meeting or not, depending upon people's talking about this. Dave Senecal and myself, Jim, John, and Tom have been the ones who've sat down as a subcommittee and tried to hash this out. What I hope is that we could maybe, the five of us could sit down again before the meeting and see if we'd have enough time to get something together for the 7th. If not, it'll have to go April 21st. And I don't know how, does that work with everybody? We try to deal on the 7th with the 2.3. Luke and Brian, would you be comfortable at that point addressing that, or do you think you want to leave it all to the April 21st? I don't want to push either one of you. This is a lot of information. But they'd like to get going, so I'm kind of...
I'm fine with moving forward with the next meeting.
Me too.
Okay, there we go. We'll try to get this worked out. If we can get it worked out in enough time to get it out to you, we'll try to get both of them on the 7th. If not, we might have to put the MOU on the 21st, but we'll take the vote and get from the 2.3 to the 2.4. That will be what the vote... 2.9. So... And those, you have to realize, are the 2019 figures.
Yeah.
There, we've got inflation in there that...
A lot.
Yeah.
So that's why we went to the 70-30. That got us out of...
Madam Chairman, thank you for your comments, and we, as I said, Jim, we came up with some different MOUs. We found the initial MOU that your team had drafted just too vague for what our donors would need, so we presented this for conversation and discussion, and we'd be pleased to have you come back to us with your thoughts on how we can provide something to our donors that would be helpful to them in making the large donations we're going to need to have this happen. And again, we need to work together on this, and we all appreciate that it, from the town's point of view, at the end of the day, it's the town voters who will decide what's going to happen to the Libby Museum. We need their support to put in the private money. And we're fully respectful of that, and thank you for all the deliberations you're making on this.
Anybody else? Any other comments? Concerns? Information needed? Anybody who needs added information from the Friends of the Libby Museum? Jim can give you email addresses if that's okay with you. They can come back to you.
It would be helpful to, I think, the Friends, if before we meet again in this environment, if we see perhaps a draft or suggestions of what you're thinking about, so if the MOU can move forward. I mean, from the Friends' point of view, the MOU, an MOU that's appropriate for both parties is necessary for this project to move forward, either the 2.3 or the 2.9. And so we'd be pleased to hear thoughts from the trustees between now and the next time we get together as to what that language might look like, so we could come together and have a common objective in mind and common language to look at.
My feeling is, I don't know what...
Are you talking about the financial contribution for the next 2 years specifically?
I'm just talking about the language that was in the second sentence of the second paragraph, Jim, and the initial MOU that you put together, which we changed and highlighted in yellow on the proposed MOU you're looking at today. And yours was too, Jen, the first one was too vague for us, and it sounds like this one is too specific and doesn't work with the kind of financial needs that Linda's thinking about. So the question is there a middle ground that we can collectively come up with?
Well, and it also is going to require the Board of Selectmen Trustees to undo another vote, because on that September 20th Board of Selectmen Trustees meeting, they voted to put $100,000 in the 2021 to 2030 CIP plan for the Libby, so that would require them undoing another vote and going forward asking for $300,000 versus the $100,000. But I think it makes the most sense for the five of us to sit down and have that conversation as opposed to negotiating it out in public.
We're fully amenable to continuing the conversation. I think we'd all like to see the project done. The question is, how do we do it? In what time frame? And what can we collectively say to our constituents that's going to enable them to support our respective positions, yours being the taxpayers and ours being the donors?
The vote we took on the 20th was to put $100,000 in the 2021 budget. We didn't do it.
No, CIP.
Oh, CIP. Okay.
And again, as I think we said the last time we met, we'd be pleased to
set a time.
meet with and work with the budget committee.
We can do that later.
Highly
Can I
valued
get in
by
touch with them?
Yeah, I will. I can actually tomorrow get you the liaison between the budget committee and the Libby Museum. I can get that out to you tomorrow.
You know, if the answer is no, the answer is no. I mean, we accept the will of the voters on this.
Tuesday, Wednesday.
We're just looking at, see if there's a date that we could meet. Jim, what's your schedule like?
It's busy, but you tell me and I'll let you
How about
know.
on Tuesday? What kind of time do you have on Tuesday? No? How about Wednesday?
Wednesday is probably
Well,
better for me.
we'll go backwards. What do you like? What's Friday like?
Fine.
How about Friday? You and I have a meeting at 9.
The day after tomorrow?
Yep. Is Friday, if we went back, I know it is Good Friday, would that cause any of you problems?
It would actually be preferable to me, because I will be going out of town for a couple weeks, starting Saturday.
And I'm out of town until next Monday.
So you're starting, so you can't do Friday?
We can, no,
Can't do Friday, no.
So we're probably going to have to do it after the 7th. I
Yep.
don't see us getting it in before the 7th, so we'll have to do it after the 7th, and then I'll send some possible dates around, and we can
yeah.
do that.
That's why we can.
Okay,
That makes most amount of sense.
Good.
Okay.
that worked.
Ready? So, no more questions. The next item on the agenda is other business, and I want to see how the board would like to conduct its meetings, whether it likes this virtual and in-person meeting, or whether you want to go back to all virtual.
Thank you, Madam Chairman.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Doesn't matter to me.
Just say that if we do go to this format here, we just really need to be cognizant of the fact we really need to be on the microphones, because I'm having a hard time hearing unless somebody's right at it, where if our heads are turned at all like this, you know, I can't hear anything that's being said. So we just, if we do this, we just really need to be with these things on. It muffles us, so I'm sure the public's having a hard time hearing us too, so.
I don't think it would be outrageous to ask if somebody is speaking that they take their mask off when they're talking on the microphone. Because, I mean, we are distanced enough.
Yeah, I'm
I don't know
fully
about anybody else,
vaccinated.
but I'm more than 6 weeks past my
You've
second.
had one?
I've had one, and I have family at home that has had none, lots of family.
Okay. So how do you feel? I mean, it's the comfortability, and if this doesn't work for people, then we can do it just virtual.
You do it virtually, it doesn't matter to me.
We've done it virtual for a year. I just felt that it might. Would you prefer, Brian, we did it virtual?
I'll do it either way, it doesn't matter.
It's how comfortable.
Well, I don't mind being in this area, being together, but we'd have to keep masks. Being.
Well, it's our choice.
I'm fine with doing it in person with all the COVID protocols and that we can possibly do. I'm fully vaccinated, so I'm comfortable. But whatever the board wants to do.
Can people hear well enough? That's, I think, I found over there I was having a hard time.
Yeah.
Only with John. I could hear the other two.
Yeah.
You know. Can you all hear me all right?
If we talk into the mic, it's a little bit easier.
Okay.
There are certain masks, too, that I think that really prevent people from being able to speak. Because I had a hard time, when he was speaking, hearing anything that he was saying. And I'm only 10 feet away, so.
And we just had somebody queue in online saying that they can hear at home, so
Okay.
that was good to hear from them. The only thing that I may request from the board, some of the staff, depending on whether or not they've been vaccinated, I may ask if they are presenting anything to continue to do that remotely.
I think anybody who wants to do it virtually can. That's why we're doing the hybrid, the both, to allow for exactly that. And I just felt that we should could try hybrid. My only problem with virtual, if I have to lead it, I'm out in the middle of nowheres, and at times my computer does not like it. So I'd have to have, Dave Senecal on call all the time.
The only other comment that was made, people at home would like to know who's speaking, so it sounds like more times that we will have to announce who is speaking. and it's really specific when we get into motions.
Okay, yeah. Well, so everybody, the next meeting, we'll do hybrid until such time that we find we don't like it, and we'll keep our masks on. Okay. Any other business? Hearing none, I need a motion to go into non-public session.
So move.
That's Dave Senecal's moving, Brad
I'll second it.
is
Brad Harriman.
seconding. Okay. Brian? Yes? You want to
Yes.
go? Luke?
Yes.
Linda's yes?
Yes, Dave Senecal.
And Brad votes yes also.
Okay, we're in non-public.